Imagine a coastline, peaceful, quiet. Suddenly there are hundreds of ships on the horizon, long, sleek and deadly. These are the longships of the Vikings. They are coming to raid, pillage and conquer. The Vikings. Just hearing the name sends shivers down your spine. They were warriors, explorers and traders. They came from the cold lands of Scandinavia, Denmark, Norway and Sweden. For centuries they terrorized Europe. They were a force of nature, untamed and unstoppable. Their raids were legendary, brutal and merciless. They attacked monasteries, villages and even cities. No one was safe from the Viking fury. But they weren't just mindless barbarians. The Vikings were skilled craftsmen, poets and storytellers. They had a rich culture and a complex society. This is their story. Prepare yourself for tales of adventure, warfare and bloodshed. This is the saga of the Vikings. The Vikings were masters of the sea. Their longships were technological marvels of their time. Fast, maneuverable and deadly. They were the key to the Vikings' success. These ships were built for speed, long and narrow with a shallow draft. This allowed them to navigate rivers and coastlines with ease. They could sail in shallow waters. This meant they could land almost anywhere. Surprise was their greatest weapon. The longships were powered by both sail and oars. This made them incredibly versatile. They could sail up rivers against the wind. They could outmaneuver larger, slower ships in battle. The Vikings were skilled sailors. They could cover vast distances. They traveled to Iceland, Greenland, and even North America. The longship was more than just a ship to the Vikings. It was a symbol of their power and their freedom. It was a sacred space, a warrior's coffin. They were often buried with their ships, ready to sail to Valhalla, the hall of the slain. The Vikings were fierce warriors. They were known for their ferocity and their skill in battle, but they weren't just mindless berserkers. They were masters of strategy and tactics. The Vikings used a tactic called the shield wall. They would interlock their shields, creating a moving fortress. This formation was incredibly effective. It could withstand even the most determined attacks. The Vikings were also masters of surprise. They would often attack without warning. They would strike quickly and decisively. Their raids were over before their enemies could even react. They used a variety of weapons, swords, axes, spears and bows. They were skilled craftsmen, and their weapons were well made and deadly. The Vikings were also known for their use of terror. They would often spread fear and panic among their enemies. This psychological warfare was just as effective as any weapon. The Vikings were driven by many factors: overpopulation, political unrest, and a thirst for wealth and land. They raided and traded across a vast area, from North America in the west to the Caspian Sea in the east. Their impact on Europe was profound. They plundered monasteries and sacked cities. They toppled kingdoms and carved out their own territories. They settled in England, Ireland, France, and Russia. The Vikings were adaptable. They assimilated into local cultures. They became kings, queens, and even saints. Their genetic legacy can still be seen today in the DNA of millions of people around the world. The Viking Age wasn't just about raiding and bloodshed, it was a time of great cultural exchange. The Vikings brought new ideas, technologies, and goods to the lands they conquered. They connected east and west, north and south. They left an indelible mark on the world. Section 5. Ragnar Lothbrok, man or myth? Ragnar Lothbrok, the name echoes through history, a legendary Viking warrior and king. His tales are the stuff of legend, full of daring raids, epic battles and cunning strategies. But did he even exist? The truth is shrouded in mystery. Ragnar is mentioned in several historical sources, but his story is so intertwined with myth and legend, it's difficult to separate fact from fiction. Some scholars believe he was a real historical figure, a chieftain who rose to prominence in the 9th century. Others believe he may be a composite character, a blend of several different historical figures. Whether real or myth, Ragnar's story has captivated people for centuries. He embodies the Viking spirit, the courage, the cunning, and the thirst for adventure. His saga is a window into the Viking world. A world of violence, but also of honor, loyalty, and a deep connection to the natural world. Section 6. The Siege of Paris, a river of shields. One of the most famous stories about Ragnar Lothbrok is his siege of Paris. In 845 AD, a massive Viking fleet led by Ragnar sailed up the Seine River. They descended upon the unsuspecting city. The sight of the Viking fleet must have been terrifying. Hundreds of longships, their prows carved with fearsome dragons and serpents. The Vikings stormed the city walls, but the Parisians fought back fiercely. The siege lasted for weeks. The Vikings were unable to take the city by force. So Ragnar resorted to cunning. He offered to leave in exchange for a ransom. The Parisians agreed, eager to be rid of the Viking menace. But Ragnar had one more trick up his sleeve. As his men were leaving, one of them collapsed, seemingly dead. The Vikings demanded a Christian burial inside the city walls. The Parisians agreed, unaware of the danger. During the funeral procession, the dead Viking rose from his coffin. He opened the city gates, allowing the rest of the Vikings to storm the city. Paris was sacked and plundered. Ragnar and his men sailed away with a vast fortune. Section 7, Sons of Ragnar, a legacy of blood and iron. Ragnar's story doesn't end with his death. He had many sons. They would become legends in their own right. Bjorn Ironside, Ivar the Boneless, Halfdan Ragnarsson, and Sigurd Snake in the Eye. Names that struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. These sons inherited their father's thirst for adventure and conquest. They led their own Viking armies, raiding and conquering across Europe. They sought revenge for their father's death. They targeted the kingdoms that had wronged him. Bjorn Ironside led raids along the Mediterranean coast. He even reached as far as North Africa. Ivar the Boneless, a cunning strategist despite his physical limitations, conquered parts of England. He became known as one of the most feared Viking leaders of all time. The sons of Ragnar Lothbrok spread terror and chaos across Europe, but they also left a lasting legacy. They helped to shape the political landscape of Europe. Their conquests led to the formation of new kingdoms and dynasties. Section 8. Valhalla awaits. The death of a legend. Ragnar Lothbrok's death is a tale worthy of his life. According to legend, he was captured by King Aella of Northumbria. Aella, seeking revenge for earlier Viking raids, had Ragnar thrown into a pit of venomous snakes. As he lay dying, Ragnar supposedly laughed. He knew that his sons would avenge him. He sang of Valhalla, the hall of the slain, where he would feast with the gods and fallen warriors. His death, like his life, became a tale of defiance and bravery. Whether or not the story of his death is true, it has become an integral part of Ragnar's legend. It speaks to the Viking belief in fate and their acceptance of death in battle. It also highlights the cyclical nature of violence and revenge that defined the Viking Age. Ragnar's death, while marking the end of an era, served as a catalyst. It ignited a firestorm of revenge in his sons. Their campaigns reshaped the political map of Britain. It solidified the Viking presence in England for years to come. Section 9, Ragnar in popular culture, from sagas to the screen. Ragnar Lothbrok's story has resonated through the ages. He continues to capture the imagination. His life and adventures have been recounted and reinterpreted countless times. From medieval sagas to modern television shows, the Icelandic sagas, written centuries ago, are our primary source for Ragnar's story. These epic tales are filled with adventure, romance, and supernatural elements. They paint a vivid picture of the Viking world. In recent years, Ragnar has experienced a resurgence in popularity thanks to the History Channel's TV series Vikings. The show, while fictionalized, draws inspiration from the sagas. It offers a gritty and visceral portrayal of Ragnar's life and the Viking Age. From books and movies to video games and comic books, Ragnar Lothbrok remains a popular figure in modern culture. His story continues to inspire and entertain audiences worldwide. It serves as a reminder of the enduring fascination with the Vikings and their world. Section 10. Conclusion: the enduring legacy of the Vikings. They were raiders, warriors, explorers, and traders. They were a force that reshaped Europe. Their impact on history is undeniable. They left behind a legacy of exploration, conquest, and cultural exchange. Their longships sailed across the seas, carrying them to new lands and new adventures. They challenged the existing order, leaving their mark on the languages, cultures, and genetics of the places they settled. Ragnar Lothbrok, whether a real historical figure or a product of legend, embodies the Viking spirit. He represents their courage, their cunning, and their thirst for life. His story continues to fascinate and inspire us centuries later. The Viking Age was a time of great upheaval and transformation. It was a time of violence and brutality, but also a time of great courage, ingenuity, and exploration. The Vikings left an indelible mark on history. Their legacy continues to shape the world we live in today.